So we are on Mezainim and Aleph. Right, so we tried another attempt to figure out where Shashi got his source from, that we don't follow this rule, and we thought it was from the case of how long you have to wait, and the fact that the mayor argued with Rabbi Yossi, and Pascha like Rabbi Yossi. Why do you have to Pascha like Rabbi Yossi for? It was obvious, must be there is no rule to which, where it says no, maybe he was being a fuke. He needed to exclude from the opinion of Rav Nachum bar Amar Shmuel, who says that we do follow Rav Meir in his Gzeirus, and therefore that was the chiddush of that, and typically he wouldn't have made a specific statement, but he needed to. So we still have not found a source for Rav Misharsha. Elam Hadatan, let's try again. A lot of attempts already. Elam Hadatan, Tanya, what about this brisa that says, okay, this is clearly a brisa, okay, and that is, Holchen liyarichel nachrim, you're allowed to go to a fair, of a goyish fair, lochem hem behem of avodim shvachos, you're allowed to buy from them animals, slaves, maidservants, batim, homes, sados ukramim, fields and vineyards, because obviously, even though generally you don't do things where they can attribute any good transaction to their deities, and this is the time that they're having the fairs, and it's a time of their holidays. But you're allowed to do that. The kaisiv u'malad be'arkoshel, and you're allowed to even write it and enter it into their geisha courts. These are things normally we wouldn't be allowed to do. Because what you're doing is you're saving a Jewish property and Jewish land from their hands. So anything you can get out of them, every slave you can get out of them becomes an immediate, at least initial convert, a partial convert. And the same thing for the shvachos and the land and all items. If you can get out of goyish avodah zarah hands, you have an obligation to. And even furthermore, if you were a kohen, the Jew, the tava b'chutza aretz, he can actually go into chutza aretz, which has already been deemed tamei by Chazal based on guidelines of what goes on based on what we know about goes on in the chutza aretz. So the Rabbanan made the land tamei rabbinically, of course, to a kohen, a lodunal areiman. So even though the kohen is going against his guidelines of not becoming Tomei, but again to save land and to even go into adjudication with them, it's okay. He can become Tomei. And just like you can go to Chutzarts, you can go into a basic forest for this same purpose of getting things out of their hands. Really? Basic forest? Now you're talking deraisis here. Basic forest, how could you say you can go to a basic forest? Basic forest is, you're talking about, Mamash being over a lav. The Torah says a kohen can't be metamed to a mace. So how could that be? Ella, no, we don't mean Mamash a basic forest. Ella basic pras, Drabonon. We mean a plowed field where there's a corpse on a field and it was plowed. So even though there's a possibility you're not walking over that corpse, and but rabbinically we made that area into a basic forest rabbinically, so we made it tamei. But since that tamei is rabbanon, and you can and salvaging these things for the Jewish people is deraisa, in that regard, I guess certainly has that feel, a deraisa feel to it. We waive the rabbanon. Melisa isha, you also can go into chutz aretz to marry a woman. A kohen needs to marry a woman, and his shidduch is in chutz aretz. He can do that. Vilma Torah, and also to learn Torah. Okay, these are all things that we are finding leniencies for. Amar Yehuda imasai bisman shemot l'ilmod. Rabbi Yehuda says, however, arguing with the Tanakama, that when can you go to Chutzar to learn Torah is only if you don't find a Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael to teach you. But if you find a person in Eretz Yisrael who can teach you, then that would be a reason why you'd be limited to in Eretz Yisrael, and you would be allowed to travel out to go to learn from a person who's in Chutz La'aretz. Rabbi Yossi disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Af bizman shemoitza lilmoid nami yitameh. Even if you find somebody else to learn from, you can still go to Chutz La'aretz and learn from the Rebbe that you want to learn from. Why? Because we have a very fundamental rule of Fishain Mina Kol Zochel Adam Lilmod. As we turn the page, not everybody is zeicha to learn from everybody. So you have to really match up to a person you feel comfortable learning from. A Rebbe is a very subtle thing. So therefore, Rabbi Yossi disagrees and says, no, you're allowed to leave Chutz La'aretz if you prefer the Rebbe in Chutz La'aretz, even though you have a Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael, you'd be allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael if you're a Kayin and make yourself Tameh to go to Chutz La'aretz. Rabbi Yossi, as we continue the Brisa, Rabbi Yossi says, Ma'asav Yosef HaKayin Shalach Eitzel Rabbi L'Tzidain Lilmod Torah, that Rabbi Yossi says was a Ma'asav Yosef HaKayin who sure enough went to Tzidon that's outside of Eretz Yisrael to learn Torah. So that's a proof from Yosef HaKohen that indeed that is the right thing to do. You have to go to the person you're most suitable to learn from. Rabbi Yochanan, our very own Rabbi Yochanan, who is the source of the rule that Meshasha said doesn't exist, Rabbi Yochanan, that in this whole debate about Rebbes and who you learn from and whether you can go to Chutz La'aretz or not, we follow Rabbi Yossi. Really? Why do I need Rabbi Yochanan to tell me we follow Rabbi Yossi? But didn't we say already, isn't that the rule if there's a dispute between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, you always follow Rabbi Yossi? So why do I need Rabbi Yochanan to come out with a specific statement? It must be that there is no rule, and that's why you have to say it. And this maybe would be the source. Finally, okay, after so many attempts, it looks like we finally have a source for Rabbi Yochanan never having said this rule, and that's where Meshasha gets it from this dispute. So whereas Abaye says, nice try, but sorry, you're going to be basically shut out this entire Gemara. I think 0 for 8, 0 for 9, whatever it might be. Abaye Itzrach. No, we still need Rabbi Yochanan to make a statement here. Why? I might have thought that this rule of Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda following Rabbi Yossi only applies in a Mishnah. When these people are talking in a Mishnah situation, that's where we follow these rules. But maybe when it comes to Brises might have different rules of engagement because Brises are less reliable. If they're less reliable, so maybe you don't want to follow the absolute rule because who says that the Rabbi Yossi that is being attributed to Rabbi Yossi is really Rabbi Yossi? Okay, so since it's not as reliable, maybe the rules change. The Chiddush is that we say it even, two possible Chiddushim. Either we say it by Brises as well, as a general rule, or maybe we just say it in this case, and Taka doesn't apply to all Brises, but applies to this Brisa. But either way, you don't have a proof to Meshasha anymore because there was a compelling reason why Rabbi Yochanan had to make that statement. Simar says, you're right. Elochi Kamar. So let's wave the white flag and let's go back and say that's not exactly what went down. Say it this way. Elochi Kamar. Hani Klali Lav Divra Kolninu. What Rav Meshasha said was not that this Klolim don't apply, never was said by Rabbi Yochanan. That's clearly, we have no proof to that. He says, but it's what he meant to say was it's not universal. Not everyone agrees with this klal. Lav devra kol ninu. It's not a universally accepted rule. The Rav leslei hani klali. Because Rav, as we already established a while ago, does not buy into these rules. So since Rav doesn't buy into them, I just want you to know it's not universal. But indeed, we already also established that between Rabbi Yochanan and Rav, we follow Rabbi Yochanan. So the rule is pretty much intact halachically. But we just need to know that Rav disagrees. Okay, let's catch up on the Rashis as we end this shtickle. Okay, did we finish the Rashi from yesterday? I'm not even sure. let's see. What's maybe from Vatanya?
I left a couple minutes earlier.
Oh, see, you can't leave. Let's pick up from Vatanya. Okay, Vatanya bin Chusa, about 10 lines up from the bottom of Rashi's. Okay, and this Vatanya is a statement of Nichus. It's a supportive statement. So this is proving that who it is, which Tana is it that says that basically is a loy plug across the board. You always have to wait 3 months. She's constantly living with the father. She's not hanging out with the husband, so there's no way she could have gotten pregnant. Or chayla, or she's sick. She can't handle the pressure of relations. So marital relations is off the charts for her. It's off this, not possible for her. Akara, machmas mazel, or could be she's barren based on the situation mazel that she was born that way. Shekvar nisas legimel b'nei adam lo yolda. She already married 3 guys, and she has not given birth. Lehen v'hulzul. So we don't know for a fact, but based on chazakas that she's already married. She's been married to 3 people for a significant length of time, enough to be able to determine that she can't have kids because it's 3 husbands already and no kids. Okay, islandess. Me'imo. Islandess means she's, from the time that she was born, she had some kind of that's her physical makeup, is that she is not a woman who's going to develop. She has signs of no hair, no pubic hair, lo dudin, okay, no breast development. Lashon island is duchronisa. It's like a male ram that cannot give birth, so we call it an islandess. Or if she's not fit to be to give birth, machmas mashke sam, she took some kind of poisonous stuff that basically killed her ability to have babies. So all of it doesn't really matter. But the bottom line is, in all these situations, we're still going to wait 3 months. 3 months. Divrei Rav Meir, Amar Rav Meir, who goes by the pshitl on the enam uberes. What din larusa? It's Rav Meir. So now this was all brought in for identity purposes. Let's understand who that stam Mishnah was, and now we're proving it's Rav Meir. So why did Rabbi Yochanan have to chime in to say we follow Rabbi Yossi? The EU gufa kaila el Rav Meir Rabbi Yossi alach Rabbi Yossi. We already know that we follow Rabbi Yossi. El Shema Mina. So this must be the proof to Rabbi Sharsha like Rabbi Yochanan lahani klali lahanacham royam rinu minavshayim. Must be they said it on their own, but Rabbi Yochanan never made this statement that Rabbi Yossi and Rav Meir we follow Rabbi Yossi, because why would he have to repeat that statement here again? Where it says, no, it's a nice try, but my kusha, Dilma Afagav the Kalin Rabbi Yochanan, even though indeed Rabbi Yochanan did compile these rules, he still had to make the statement here again. It's like Bohamishum the Rav Meir Machmir, because here in this case Rav Meir is Machmir, Omar Shmuel, and Shmuel has said, Halak Rav Meir Big Zerosov. Okay, in his decrees, Rav Meir has a lot of different decrees that he said over the course of Shas. Every place he's Machmir, in Exera, Rabbi Yochanan needed to come to exclude Shmuel's position, to at least establish in this case we don't follow a Rav Meir Big Zerosov. Maybe other cases we do, but in this case we follow Rabbi Yossi. So he doesn't buy into this gezerah of this waiting 3 months, even for situations where there's no chance, either because you were only betrothed, you weren't fully married, so how could you have a baby when you never had relations, and all these other cases where kids weren't possible. Okay, that was yesterday's Gemara. Now we're in today's Gemara. Lirid Shuk Hanikval Yom Ayid Shalavot Azar. This is the marketplace, a fair that was designated to be conducted in the day of their celebration. They had different holidays, as we well know. And you are allowed to buy houses and fields from them, because it lessens their possessions of these items, and we'd like to have them in our possessions. or because we want to have Eretz Yisrael, more of it, and therefore, in order to inhabit more of Eretz Yisrael, you can get these things out of certainly the sados and the krumim. That might not apply to the movable items, but I guess that's why you need the first reason. Just the more stuff you get out of the hands of the idol worshippers into the hands of the Jews, that's a good thing. It's all quoting different places. Okay, fine. Right? Because when you acquire a slave from a guy, you are entering them into kedusha. There's some level of partial conversion going on, and that brings them into a closer realm of being, even though we generally don't look for converts, but I guess in these cases, especially when you can get somebody out of the Avodah Zarah realm, maybe that's a little bit different, but we generally don't just like looking for converts. Okay, umala hashtar bar koshlam, you'll not even bring up the shtar in Goyish courts. Lefnei dainehem lachtaim, in front of their judges, to sign on this. Valv pishu chashivus lehen, even though it makes it choshev for them. Ooh, look at the Jew. He came to a Goyish court to adjudicate a situation. Vikal lemechash dilma azla umaydei. Even though they might go and thank their God for this, which is one of the reasons why you don't give gifts to Gentiles in the days of their holidays, because it'll come to connect them back and say, oh, thank you, whatever, for all this that's going on, all this good stuff. Afilochi shari, but the more compelling reason is that you want to get things out of their realm, out of their hands, and that trumps the issue of not having them thank their God. Okay, Neishu Kamatsu Miyadam. The reason is because you're saving stuff from their hands. You don't want them to come back and be ma'ara. So you're allowed to go into their court and complain and say, no, it's, do it over, and appeals, all these different appeals might take place. So if you do it in their court, shushes them up, and that's why you're allowed to do it. Okay, and you also, once we're talking about different leniencies, you're allowed to, for the sake of marriage and for the sake of learning Torah, you're allowed to go into chutzarts. Okay, and not only you're allowed to go into chutzarts, which is tamei, but you're allowed to even go to basic verse. Really? A kayin can go into basic verse for the sake of marriage and for the sake of learning Torah? Basic verse like of our belav. It's a lav in the Torah. Since when can you be over lav in the Torah to get married? That can't be. So Marcy, you're right. It can't be because we're talking about a base of pras, which is only rabbinic in nature, and that allows that we're going to waive the base of pras rules when you have these compelling counter issues. Okay, these were rules that were instituted lechatchila with these exceptions. Doesn't mean you can be over any drabanan for the sake of learning Torah, for the sake of getting married. But these were built in to the rules. So if you can't find a Rebbe to learn from in your land, then you're allowed to go to Chutzars. But if you can find a Rebbe, then you have to stay in Eretz Yisrael. Comes along Rabbi Yossi, says, no, even if you do have a Rebbe to learn from, you're still allowed to leave to Chutzars. Shloi tap Rashi, shloi min hakol adam zeich lilmai. A person is not zeich to learn from anybody. Ein adam zeich lilmai mikol b'lamdav. Okay, it doesn't work, right? You have to Rebbe's a shidduch, and that's why, unfortunately, in schools, if you have if the shidduch doesn't work 1 year, you could be stuck. Yesh Rav shemishnasei sedur b'fiv v'shoyna l'tamid of derech ketzara. Okay, so according to Rashi, it's not so much a personality thing, but there are Rebbeim that just have a much more succinct approach. That the learning is clear; it's set up in their minds and their mouths clearly, and they find the way to say it in the shortest way possible, where it's easily understood. So not a lot of hyperbole and verbosity. So that's a better way of teaching. So if he feels that Rebbe has that talent, that's the way you have to go. Okay, the statement sounds like it's more of a subjective thing. Here, the Rashi seems to say it's more of the talent of the Rebbe, for him to be able to put things together properly. Okay, and the story happened. Rabbi Yossi is proving his position that Yosef HaKohen went to Tzidon Chutz Aretz, which is in Chutz Aretz, and he learned by his Rebbe. So that's a proof. So V'yomer Rabbi Yochanan, right? Rabbi Yochanan then said, we follow Rabbi Yosi. And the question is, why do we need it? It must be this is a source of Rav Mishasha that Rabbi Yochanan never said it. Where it says, nice try, but I'll knock you out again. The dafkihi. Mishnahs are specific. Mishnahs are exact. So you have no basis to assume any mistakes in a Mishnah. Avol Brisa, and our case right now is a Brisa. It's not a Mishnah that we sourced. This whole idea of the going into the base of Pras, the basic forest, the whole spiel with the Goyish Yonte, the holidays. Avol Brisa, the Dilma Ichlif Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yosi. Maybe there was really a mistake, and they switched Rabbi Yehuda for Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Yosi Rabbi Yehuda, and vice versa. So Eimaloi Lismochol, maybe the rule is you should not rely on Brises. Therefore, he has to say we follow Rabbi Yosi in this case. Uli Olam Isnu Lahani Klali, and he really does hold of these rules, but he had to apply to a Brises as well. To which Gemara finally relents and says, "You're right. Let's forget the whole thought that Rav Mishasha said that Rav Yochanan never said the rule. Hitaka said the rule. But so what did Rav Mishasha say? What Rav Mishasha said when he made that statement countering the rule of Rav Yochanan is that Rav, it's not universal. The Rav Leslie Lahani Klali. Kedamar Le'il, like we said before, Mid Yisroch Leila Meimar Saim Banami Alach Rabbi Yehuda. Right? Remember we had Rav ending, we follow Rabbi Yehuda, and we said that Rav didn't buy into these rules, so that's taka what he was saying. All he was saying is, I just want you to know, even though we don't follow Rav, halach l'mais against Rabbi Yochanan, but indeed Rav disagreed. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the sugya, now ready to go weiter. Amar V'Yudah Mashmuel, 2 dots. Amar V'Yudah Mashmuel, Chevtzei Nochri Ein Koinen Shvisa. So the items of a guy do not acquire. Remember we had the whole big discussion about Hefker. What's the status with Hefker? Different opinions. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and the Chachamim. Now we have not something that's not owned. It's owned by someone who has no tchum. Right? A guy clearly can go wherever he wants, as far as he wants. There's no limitation to how much a guy can travel. So let's say the guy now has an item, and now that item is in the hands of a Jew. What is the limitation of that item? And Shmuel says there is no limitation. It's not kind of shvisa, so it's able to go as far as you can go. No limitation to the item. Now, Laman, who is Shmuel saying this in? Ilaim Rabbanon. If you're saying it in Rabbanon, that Rabbanon who hold Hefker doesn't have shvisa pshita. It's obvious. I need you to tell me what the status of a guy's item is when you already told me the status of a Hefker item. Hashachef say Hefker the last bailam ain't kind of shvisa. A Hefker item that doesn't have any countering force of not holding a tchum. There is no tchum. If you even allow no tchum to be dictated to a hefkedika item where it has no owners, ain't kind of shvisa, and there is no shvisa there, and you can take it as far as you want to take it, as far as you're able to go. So for sure, would it certainly not be true for an item owned by a guy, which has bailim, and those bailim don't have any limitations. So it's much more of a logic to say that you should be subservient to the Baal of the guy, and certainly not have any limitations. Hefker, you can argue back and forth, but by a guy here, he's the owner, and he has no limitations. Certainly, shouldn't the item go after the guy? Is there any need for me to be told that Chefsei Nachri have no shvisa? Ella must be Ali Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. But it must be that the Chiddush is in Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. And the Chiddush is aim Adam Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri kainin shvisa. When did Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri say that you acquire a place for a hefkedika item and you're limited? And that's why he says by the sleeping Jew as well. I mean, it goes both ways, right? So by the chayfetz it's a chumrah, and by the Jew sleeping it's a kula, but it's the same principle. And I'm being told right now by Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan Nuri Kain Shvisa Anami L'Chefsei Hefker. That's only true by a Hefkedik item that it's open to be. It requires shvisa by hefker, and therefore is limited to its own 2,000 amas. Less subailam. That's because it has no contrary ownership taking it in a different direction. Chefsei nachri, this say bailam, but chefsei nachri that has bailim, loy, and those bailim don't have any limitations because a guy has no tchum. So the rules are different for a guy than for an item of hefker. And therefore Shmuel needed to tell me that in Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. That's what we're assuming right now. Let's take a look at Rashi. Let's see here. Ein kain shvisa. Right, so about 8 narrow lines down. Ein kain shvisa. V'rein karagle kol. So if you're not kain shvisa, they're like anybody who picks up the item. V'yimbo michutz tchum l'tocha ir. If a guy comes from outside of the tchum into the city, mutar lo holichan l'chol ruach. You're allowed to take it to any direction because it's not. There's no limitation. It is what it is. It's not subservient to the person picking it up. I'm sorry. It's the other way around. It doesn't have its own limitation. So whatever when the person picked it up, he can take it any direction he wants because the item doesn't have any rules governing it itself. Okay.
But it's owned by the non-Jew. Should you leave it there?
Well, I guess the non-Jew at this point, you're not stealing from the non-Jew. I guess the non-Jew doesn't want it, or
So it's hefker then.
Well, maybe he gave it to you. Maybe he said you can use it. Okay. Yeah.
So he gave it to you, that it's yours. I'm sort of confused here.
Well, no, but first of all, it doesn't matter. Let's say even if he did, the rules, the concern is what was the status when Shabbos hit. I mean, that we've learned already many times, that things can't change after. If it was kind of shvisa, it would be limited based on where it was at Ben Hashmoshos. But you can have a guy saying, if you want to borrow my item, go ahead and you can use it. And the question is, how far can you take it? Okay, so he says, so again, the basic halacha is, it's not kind of shvisa, and basically it's open to any direction, any new issue that comes up, and any new status that comes up, it could be taken in that direction. Chefsei hefker.
By how far you can go.
What?
It's limitations how far you can go.
Correct. Okay. Chefsei hefker. So let's see here. I would have thought maybe it's only by chefsei hefker where you're not koinen shvisa. Dikla meimar liknu min afshayu amar rabbanan dein koinen. All right, this is part of the Kavah Chaimer. In other words, why would you have to tell me this chiddush in Rabbanon if by chefsei hefker ikla meimar liknu min afshayu where there's argument to say let it get its own status? Amar rabbanan dein koinen. The Rabbanon say no, it's open season to anybody who picks it up. There are no intrinsic limitations. So chefsei nachri, the islahu, bailim. So in a situation where it belongs to the guy which has ownership, very hein kamaisan, and where normally the rules are that the item is like the owner, ubailim lesu shvisa, and the owners don't have any limitations. They're goyim. Okay, the lav b'nei shvisa ninu. Mi boy, if it's and they're not lav b'nei shvisa, there's no limitations by the guy, so it's a no-brainer that they're going to be open to whatever new status comes along. That there's no previous status because the guy didn't have any status. Okay, so right now we are saying that when Shmuel said that the chefsei nachri ain't kain shvisa, it's in Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. No, it's a no-brainer in the Chachamim that's the case, and it but it also applies to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, who says that hefker does not that hefker does kind of shvisa. A goyish item is not kind of shvisa. That's what we're holding right now. So let's go back to the Gemara and say, wait a minute, this is going to be a problem. Meisvei, let me ask you a question here from this brisa. Rav Shimon Elazar Omer. Shimon Elazar says, "Hashayil kli min anochri b'yontif." If somebody borrows an item from a goy in yontif, v'chen amashaloi l'nochri kli me'erev yontif, or you lend the Nachri a Kli from Erev Yontif, V'chzir lo b'Yontif, and then the Goy gives it back to him on Yontif. So these items were under the Goyish auspices when Ben Hashmoshos hit. V'kelim v'otzros sheshafsu b'toch atchum, or kelim, different items that were put into store places. Sheshafsu b'toch atchum, that they rested when Shabbos started. They were inside the tchum. Yesh lehen alpayim amlo chol ruach. You have 2,000 amas in every direction. So they were kind of shvisa, that these items are limited by 2,000 amas. Or if a guy brings fruits to a Jew from outside the chum, hareza lo yazizim koman. You cannot take them from their place. They are limited to 4 amas. If a guy brings item from chutz chum, you cannot move them. They're limited. Now, if you're going to tell me that, so clearly by the fact that these items are limited, it sounds like they were kind of shvisa. It doesn't say you can take it as far as you want to take it. It's limited to its own 2,000 amas. Now, who is the author of this brisa? So, if you're going to accept the fact that Rabbi Yochanan Nuri holds a goyish item is kona shvisa, okay, the fact that it belongs to a guy, it still has its own limitations. Haman Rabbi Yochanan Nuri. I get it that it would be Rabbi Yochanan Nuri who would say hefker, a hefker item that is not kind of shvisa, but a goyish item is kind of shvisa. Okay, I get it. He says Eliyam because of Rabbi Yochanan Nuri chavsi nachri ain't kind of shvisa. But if you say that goyish items, even according to Rabbi Yochanan Nuri, have no limitation, which was the assertion we just made, that Shmuel was making a statement in Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri's opinion, well then this brisa seems to be a problem. Hamani lo Rabbi Yochanan Nuri lo Rabbanan. This is neither Rabbi Yochanan Nuri or the Rabbanan. So what? How do you explain this brisa? Let's catch up on the Rashi's here for a minute and get more into this brisa. So Hashoel Kliman Anachri, right? That's what we're up to. If somebody borrows a kli from a guy, uben iroi have, we're in the same town. Okay, or the Jew lends the guy a kli from before Yontif, and when Yontif hits, he acquires his place. The item acquires his place with the guy inside the tchum of the town. Vakelim va'otzros peiros shasum la'otzor, fruits that were put into a warehouse for long-term storage. So all of these cases, yeshin alpayim l'chol ruach, va'afil ein shel hefker. Even if they're hefker, they acquire a position of a limitation based on I'm in the city, so they have city limits to all sides. Uklisha kana shvisa etzel nachri, and a kli that clearly acquired shvisa by the guy when Shabbos Yontif fit v'chzir l'bailim, okay, and were returned to the owner. V'irvu bailim v'mizrach olamayriv, and the Baal had a lot more distance because he made an erev because he wants to go someplace out either to the east or to the west. He made an erev for himself in one direction, even though the item was given back to him on Yontif. Ein yochol tziom alpayim. You cannot go out of the 2,000 amas of the city. Okay, even though if the item becomes subservient to the Jew, you would have been allowed to take it in your direction, but now you can't because when Yontif hit, it was under the auspices of the Goy, and it was kind of shvis in its own right. So, or another case is if the Goy brings it and from out of the Tchum, lo yazizim komon, you cannot move it from its place, the kanu shvisim kaiman. Because when he brings it into town, it's kind of shvisa right where it is. And it already went out of the tchum. The einlen ela arba amos, and it's limited to 4 amos. So you have all these scenarios where the item seems to have its own identity and its own limitation. and it's kind of shvisa. So this seems to be saying clearly this brisa that a guy is kind of shvisa. So who is this brisa? Who is the author? Which Tana? Hamani diktani chavsei anarchi kind of shvisa. Who is the one who says that a gayish item is kona, despite the ownership of the guy, it's kona, it's 2,000 amas. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Okay, it's got to be Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Klaimar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar aliv Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Omar. It's got to be that he's saying this halacha in the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, because it can't be the Chachamim. It's very obvious. It would be the Chachamim. It would be Pashut. So it'd have to be Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, right? Because we said it was a Kavul Chaimer. So for the Chachamim, so it'd have to be Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and that L'chayr would be against Shmuel's statement, because Shmuel says. Shmuel made a statement that Chefsei Nachri ain't kain in Shvisa, and that statement l'chari could only be in Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. There would only be a chiddush of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So right now we're stuck. So seems like you're not agreeing with Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri of the brisa of Rabbi Shimon Elazar, who has to be following Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So Shmuel, you're up against the wall. So what are you going to say? Let's go back to the Gemara. He says. Hamani. So right, Hamani lo Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, right? V'lo Rabbanan. So Liolam, sorry. Okay, lost my place a little bit. So Liolam says the Gemara, Liolam Kasavar, about slightly below the middle of the page. Liolam Kasavar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Chefsei Hanachri Kainin Shvisa. I'll tell you, really, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is of the opinion that chefsei of a goy is kind of shvisa. Okay, so if it's kind of shvisa, and that would explain the brisa. But Shmuel said it's ain't kind of shvisa. And if Shmuel was saying it in the Rabbanon, isn't it pashut? I mean, it's a kavul chaimer. Okay, if hefker is not kind of shvisa, for sure, a goy is not kind of shvisa, the item of a goy. Shmuel Amar Kabbanon. Okay, and Shmuel really says it, and he said his halach in Rabbanon. The Karmel Rabbanon Pshita. But then we say that Rabbanon, it's an obvious no-brainer. Why do I need to be told when I know already that a hefkedika item is not kind of shvisa? For sure, a goyisha item is not kind of shvisa. And Mara says, no, not necessarily true. I might think that maybe we made a gzeira. That owned items that have an ownership to them, might be confused. So right, a hefker item stands alone as a unique hefker item. It has no owners. Everyone knows if it has no owners, it's not kind of shvisa. But maybe an item that's owned by a guy could easily be confused with an item owned by a Jew. And in order to avoid that confusion, I said it is kind of shvisa. Kamash Malan. Taka, that's a chiddush that we don't make that gzeira. That taka, it follows the logical rules that it stands, with its original logic without a gzeira, that indeed it is not kona shvisa, and that's why you have as much as you want to take it. I Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, taka will say it is kind of shvisa. He'll be different. Let's just Rashi quickly. Lolam so Rabbi Yochanan Chavsei Nachri Chavsei Hefker Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri he. Okay, and I'll tell you really the brisa reflects Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. What about Shmuel? Shmuel the Amar Le'el Ein Kainin Krabanon the Amar B'Chavsei Hefker the Ein Kainin. He will say it's Chavsei Hefker is not kaina, and even though it's obvious, it's not so obvious. The Gemara says because I might think it make a gzeira, and the chiddush you don't make a gzeira. We'll pick this up tomorrow.